Hey everyone, and welcome back in my studio. It's freezing today, it's almost 0 degrees Celsius, but that's not a reason not to record another tutorial. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to draw a perfectly straight line onto a relatively simple sculpture such as these ones here. Because you see, generally speaking, if you want to copy a sculpture, that would involve the use of a pointing machine. More on that on another episode. But if you're copying a simple sculpture, such as these ones here, you could try carving it by sight. This method is called direct carving, and it's a great way to train, challenge and improve your visual skills. Direct carving does not mean that you don't measure at all. You always need some measuring techniques to rely on. And one of these measuring techniques is the projection of a grid onto the sculpture that you wish to copy. So once you have drawn such a grid on the plaster cast, you can easily transpose it onto the stone. But how do you draw perfectly straight lines onto a 3D surface? So today I'm going to show you how to do exactly that. At first sight, this is not an easy task, but let me show you a very simple method that has been used for centuries. It is exactly the same method that has allowed Romans to build perfectly straight roads for hundreds of kilometers. The tools that you'll need are a sharp pencil, 2 metal squares, preferably the ones that can stand by themselves, like these ones here, and a large piece of paper or a wooden board, as I have here in this case. In this example, you can see how such a grid looks like. The purpose of this grid is to be able to set some specific key points onto the original, like the tip of the nose, the position of the eyes, the cheekbone, or whatever other point that you wish to locate. For example, we can see that the lower lip, the tongue, the nose, the point between the eyebrows and the top curl are all aligned on one vertical line. The vertical lines are comparable to the longitude lines of the Earth, while the horizontal lines, like the latitude lines, help us to find the exact position of these points onto the vertical line. So for today's demonstration, I will not use this green man mask. It's a little bit more complex, but instead I will use this little head of a Baroque putto, which is exactly the same head that I use for one of my online stone carving courses. If you're interested in those, check the link in the description here below. But now let's move on and see how to draw straight lines onto this piece. So the first thing that you need to do is to take your large piece of paper or wooden board, make sure that it's clean, because we will need to draw on it, and then take the piece and place it exactly at the center. It's important to have a large piece of paper or wooden board like this one, because we will project that grid onto the board, then we will remove the piece, take the stone, place the stone onto that grid, and then transpose those lines onto the stone. So the piece of paper or the wooden board needs to be at least as large or preferably larger than the stone in which you will carve the piece. Once you have placed the piece onto the paper or the wooden board, make sure to draw the outline of the piece. This is very important, because if by chance you happen to bump into the piece, it moves, then you'll be easily able to replace it on its exact position. And then you come and stand in front of the piece as we are now. You take the square and you place it on the board and you start pushing it forward until it starts slicing through the face of the piece. As you can see now, I am pushing the square back and forth until it itself cuts exactly through the center of the face, as it does in this case. So you can see here that the square touches the chin, the center of the mouth, the tip of the nose, as well as the tip of the top curl. So this is now a projection of that line onto the face. And once you have done that, you can mark the point on the board where the square is touching the board. And since this piece is relatively low, you can see up here that the square also touches the wood. So we can also draw that line onto the wood. But if the piece would be a bit higher and it wouldn't allow you to see the back side, then you take another square, a second square, and you place it here on the back and you pull it back until these two lines, until the line of this square and the line of this square perfectly align together, as now. So I'm pushing it a bit forward now, you can see it coming out of the back, but at a certain moment they are perfectly aligned. And then when that happens, you can then, just removing this to show you, mark this point, and then basically this point and this point that we have previously marked are the projection of that line onto the board. But now let's get back to the drawing of that line onto the 3D. This is the main reason why we're here. So as we've just seen, that square is perfectly cutting the face in half and touching all the points that we want. So all you have to do now is come and stand at the exact position where you can see what we are seeing now, and use the square as a ruler to draw the projection of that straight line on the face with your free hand. So as I'm doing now, and then you draw that straight line. It's easier to draw it in smaller strokes than in one go. You see that they will easily allow you to draw that straight line on whatever 3D surface. I'm just marking it to make it a bit more visible. And so if I move away the square now, you can see that the line is perfectly projected onto the face, and it also continues on the square that is at the back. And if you want to draw the continuation of that line at the back side of the piece, you just come to the other side, you don't move the squares, and then you draw again that line at the back. But now we have only one line, so we'll need to draw in the same way more vertical and horizontal lines, and their intersection will indicate us the exact position of some specific points. So in this demonstration, I'll show you how to find the position of the nose. And to do so, we'll need to draw a horizontal line on the piece. So we'll need to rotate the piece by 90 degrees so that we'll be able to draw the line. So come from this side, take the square again, place it on the wood, and then push it forward until you can see that the square is going through the tip of the nose. This is a little bit easier because we only have to find one point, whereas before we needed to find the chin, the lip, the nose, and the curl all on one line, while here we have just one point, so that's easier. Place it there, you see that it's touching the tip of the nose. There. And then again, you pull back, mark the place of that line on the wooden board. And since the piece is quite low, it does allow us to look all the way to the other side of the board, where we can find the projection of this line onto the board and mark it clearly here. And then again, in the same way, we get a little bit closer and we draw that straight line onto the piece. And as you can see, if I push the square away, that's that straight line. But of course, now you'll need to draw that line also on the other side of the face, on the other cheek. And to do so, I'm coming here from this side, and since I'm right-handed, I'm turning the square around because I don't want it to hide my hand while drawing. And I'm placing it back. Since we've marked the position of the square, that will be easy to find it again. And then take the second square, place it on the board, place it against the mark that we have just drawn when we're on the other side, and then the two squares should be perfectly aligned, and they are in this case. Close one eye when you're doing this. It's difficult to do it with two eyes open. Close one eye, and then you will be able to see that continuation, that projection of the squares onto the face. And then draw that line onto the piece. There we go. And so, as you can see now, we have been able to draw two perfectly straight lines, a central vertical one and a horizontal one, and their intersection allows us to exactly locate the position of the nose. Let me turn this at an angle that you can see that perfectly straight line, both the horizontal and the vertical one. And you can repeat this process to find any other point that you wish to locate. For example, the tip of the lips, the bottom lip, the chin, the center of the eyebrow, or perhaps the top of the curl, or whichever other point your specific sculpture requires. So as you can see, quite a simple process. We have been able to draw a perfectly straight line on a 3D shape just with the use of a couple of squares and a pencil. For demonstration purposes, today I'll limit myself just to these two lines. I explain the process much more in detail in my online courses, to which you'll find a link down here below. I hope the explanation was clear. Try it out, see if it works. If you have any questions, comments, remarks, please leave them here below. And as always, I'm Adar Jaber. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.